A female CEO pretended to be poor for one day, but she never expected a struggling single father to give her the last meal meant for his daughter. On a freezing November night in Tacoma, rain hammered the windows of a roadside diner while Claire Bennett sat alone in a worn green coat, treated like she did not belong. Across town, Ethan Parker had counted every dollar in his pocket, promising his 9-year-old daughter he would bring home soup and bread. Then he saw Claire being pushed toward the storm. What happened next would expose a company's hidden cruelty test, a father's last promise, and begin an unexpected connection between two people living in completely different worlds. Stay until the end, because this story may change the way you see kindness, dignity, and second chances. Like the video and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The Woman in the Green Coat. That cold night in Tacoma had begun many hours before Ethan Parker placed his dinner in front of a stranger. At 8:15 that morning, Claire Bennett sat at the head of a long glass table 36 floors above downtown Seattle. The city below was waking beneath a gray November sky. Ferries moved across Elliott Bay like pale shadows. Office lights flickered on one floor at a time, and the streets filled with people carrying coffee umbrellas and private worries no quarterly report could measure. Inside the conference room, everything looked controlled. The table had been polished until it reflected the ceiling lights. Water waited in identical glasses. Black folders had been placed before every executive at the same angle. On the wall, a presentation displayed a smiling family gathered around a restaurant table. Above them were 5 words: "Every table feels like home." Russell Kane stood beside the screen in a dark blue suit. His silver tie was perfectly centered, and his voice carried the relaxed confidence of a man who had rehearsed every answer before anyone asked the question. Regional operating costs fell by 11% this quarter, he said. Labor efficiency improved across Western Washington. Food loss is down, customer complaints remain within acceptable limits, and Tacoma is now one of our strongest markets. Several board members nodded. Claire did not. She studied the photograph on the screen. A young mother was laughing while her son held a bowl of soup with both hands. The restaurant behind them glowed with warm amber light. The picture had been taken years ago in the first Bennett Hearth restaurant when Claire's mother still walked through the dining room, carrying extra bread for anyone who looked hungry. Claire remembered standing behind the counter as a teenager drying glasses while her mother spoke to a man who had come in from the rain. He had no money. Her mother had seated him anyway. No questions, no paperwork. No embarrassed smile disguised as charity. Just soup bread and a place near the heater. Claire looked at Russell. What happened to the open table program? His hand paused over the remote, only for a second. Then his expression settled back into place. It was suspended at the regional level, suspended when earlier this year. Claire leaned forward. I approved a review. I did not approve a suspension. Russell glanced toward the financial officer seated near the end of the table. The program was producing inconsistent results. What does that mean? It means it was expensive. Claire waited. Russell cleared his throat. It was difficult to control. Some locations had people returning several times a week. Managers reported disruptions. Paying customers complained. About hungry people eating soup. About the atmosphere. Claire's eyes moved around the table. No one met them. Russell clicked the remote and the smiling family vanished. A chart replaced them, filled with green lines and clean percentages. We are operating in a competitive market, he said. Good intentions do not protect margins. Claire looked at the empty place where the photograph had been. My mother created that program. With respect, Claire, your mother was running 3 restaurants. We are operating 87 locations, 12 markets, and 2 distribution centers. And that makes compassion less practical. It makes everything more complicated. Russell said it gently, almost kindly, as if explaining a difficult truth to someone who had allowed memory to interfere with business. Claire closed the folder in front of her. What happens to the food that would have been served through the program's standard disposal procedures? Meaning expired or removed inventory is discarded according to policy, even if it is still safe to eat. Russell's smile tightened. That is a legal question. No, it is a human question. The room went quiet. A woman from public relations shifted in her chair. Someone near the windows lowered his eyes to his notes. Russell placed the remote on the table. If you want the legal department to review the policy, I can arrange that. Claire watched him for another moment. His face revealed nothing. "Do that," she said. The meeting continued, but Claire heard little of it. Numbers moved across the screen. Market share, labor hours, customer retention, waste reduction. Every category had been measured. Nothing in the report showed who had been turned away. When the meeting ended, the executives gathered their folders and filed out. Russell remained behind. "You seem concerned," he said. Claire walked toward the window. Below her, the city looked small enough to hold in one hand. "I am concerned. The program was outdated. Kindness becomes outdated. Sentiment becomes expensive." She turned. "My parents did not build Bennett Hearth so people could feel small beneath our sign." Russell buttoned his jacket. "Your parents built a restaurant. You built a corporation. Those require different instincts. Did you close the program because it failed or because it did not improve your numbers?" A thin line appeared between his eyebrows. "I closed it because I was hired to protect this company." Claire held his gaze. Then protect all of it. For the first time that morning, Russell seemed uncertain what she meant. He left without asking. A few minutes later, Dana Ruiz entered carrying a brown envelope. Claire was still standing near the window. Dana closed the conference room door behind her. "This was delivered to your private office, by whom security does not know. No return address, no courier record." Claire turned from the glass. Dana placed the envelope on the table. "It was addressed to you by hand." Claire opened it. The first photograph showed a locked metal container behind a Bennett Hearth grocery store. Inside were sealed sandwiches, packaged salads, bread, prepared meals, and crates of produce. Some packages still carried labels showing they were safe for another day. The second photograph showed an employee emptying trays of food into a dumpster. The third showed a mother and a little boy standing near the fence beyond the loading area. The boy was staring through the wire. Claire placed the photographs beside each other. "What is this?" Dana handed her a printed document. An employee complaint, submitted 6 weeks ago through the regional reporting system. The employee's name had been removed, but the text remained. The writer described edible food being destroyed at a Tacoma distribution center. He had requested permission to redirect the food to shelters and community kitchens. His request had been denied. Claire turned the page. There was no follow-up investigation, no interview, no review from the legal department. Only one line had been added at the bottom. Operational matter resolved at regional level. Russell Kane's approval code appeared beside it. Claire read the sentence twice. Dana removed a folded piece of paper from the envelope. This was included. The message was written in blue ink. "You are advertising kindness while your managers punish it. Visit Tacoma without your title." Claire looked up. "Did Russell see this? No. Does anyone else know? Only security and me." Claire walked back toward the window. The city had disappeared behind a curtain of rain. Dana watched her carefully. "I can begin an internal review. Russell will know before lunch. Then we involve the board. He will prepare the stores. Managers will receive instructions. Employees will smile. The waste containers will be empty by the time anyone arrives." Dana crossed her arms. "What are you thinking?" Claire looked at the photographs again. "I want to visit the Tacoma locations. Today, yes, with security number Claire. With a driver everyone will know." Dana moved closer. "You cannot walk into random locations alone. Why not?" "Because your face is on the annual report, not in the right clothes." Dana stared at her. "You are serious. I want to see what happens when nobody believes I matter." For a moment, neither woman spoke. Rain tapped against the glass. Dana picked up the handwritten note. "This could be a trap. It could also be the truth. You can discover the truth without putting yourself in danger." Claire touched one of the photographs. The little boy behind the fence could not have been older than 8. "I have been discovering the truth through reports for years." She looked at Dana. "Look where that brought us." 2 hours later, Claire stepped out of a thrift store on Pine Street wearing a faded green coat, black pants that were too long, and a pair of used shoes with worn soles. Her hair was tied back without care. She had removed her earrings, watch, and makeup. The faint line from her wedding ring had vanished years ago, but she still rubbed that finger when she felt exposed. Dana waited inside a parked car. She lowered the window when Claire approached. "You look cold already. The coat is thinner than it appeared. That is not encouraging." Claire handed Dana her phone wallet, company identification, and watch. Dana looked at the diamond face. "Your mother gave you this." "I know. You never take it off. I need to today." Dana placed everything in a leather bag. "What name are you using?" Claire looked toward the street. A bus moved through the rain, spraying water across the curb. "Clara Reed." Dana's expression softened. "Your mother's name, and my grandmother's last name." Dana nodded. "What do you have with you?" Claire opened her hand. "A bus card. 80 cents and 3/4, that is all." "That is the point." Dana did not smile. It should not be. Claire closed her fingers around the coins. "If anything feels wrong, I leave. You call me. I will not have a phone. You find one." Claire opened the bus door. Dana caught her wrist. "This company is not worth getting hurt over." Claire looked at her. "No, but the people working inside it might be." The first Bennett Hearth location sat near the waterfront, surrounded by office towers and expensive apartment buildings. Claire entered through a side door and stood near the host station. The restaurant was crowded with people escaping the rain. A young man in a white shirt approached. "Table for one." Claire looked toward the restroom sign. "I only need to use the restroom." His eyes dropped to her coat. "Restrooms are for customers. I understand. I will only be a minute. I am sorry. That is company policy." A woman waiting for a table glanced at Claire, then pulled her handbag closer. Claire noticed. The host noticed too. His voice became quieter. "There is a public library 4 blocks north." In this rain, he looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I do not make the rules." Claire studied his face. He was barely 20. "I know," she said. That answer seemed to trouble him more than anger would have. At the second location, a Bennett Hearth grocery store, a security guard followed her from the entrance to the canned goods aisle. Claire picked up a dented can of beans and examined the price. $2.19. She counted the coins in her palm. The guard stopped at the end of the aisle. "Can I help you?" "I am only looking. You have been looking for 10 minutes." Claire returned the can to the shelf. "Is there a time limit?" His expression hardened. "Do you plan to buy something?" She looked at the rows of food around her. "I hope to." He stepped closer. "Then you need to make a selection." Claire walked toward the bakery. Behind the counter, a worker was filling clear bags with bread that had been removed from the display. "What happens to those?" Claire asked. The worker glanced at the guard. "Guard, they are being discarded. Could I have one? No, I can pay 75 cents. The worker lowered her voice. "I cannot sell them after the display date. Could you give me one?" The guard appeared behind Claire. "You need to leave." The bakery worker looked down at the bread. Claire saw shame cross the woman's face. Not cruelty, fear. Outside rainwater gathered inside Claire's shoes. By early afternoon, her feet hurt. Her fingers had gone stiff. Hunger had become a steady pressure beneath her ribs. She sat beneath an awning and watched people enter another Bennett Hearth restaurant. Warm light spread across the pavement whenever the door opened. Inside, a server with a tired face noticed her through the glass. A few minutes later, the woman came outside holding a paper cup. "Coffee," she said. "It is not fresh, but it is hot." Claire accepted it. "Thank you." The server glanced over her shoulder. "Do not tell anyone. Why, we are not supposed to give anything away. Even coffee you are going to throw out." The woman gave a humorless laugh. "Especially then." The manager opened the restaurant door. "Kayla." The server froze. "What are you doing taking out trash?" The manager looked at the cup in Claire's hands. "That does not look like trash." Kayla's cheeks flushed. "I was going to pay for it." "No, you were not." The manager took the cup from Claire and poured the coffee into a planter beside the door. Steam rose between them. "You know the policy," he told Kayla. "Yes. Go inside." Kayla whispered an apology before obeying. The manager held the door open. Not for Claire, for Kayla. Then he closed it. Claire remained beneath the awning, staring at the coffee darkening the soil. Cruelty had not shouted. It had worn a clean shirt and repeated the word policy. By late afternoon, Claire understood why the anonymous note had told her to leave her title behind. Her name had opened every door in her adult life. Without it, even a restroom became something she had to earn. She boarded a bus toward Tacoma as daylight faded over the highway. The city changed outside the window. Glass towers became warehouses, restaurants became repair shops, storage lots, and small apartment buildings with rusted balconies. Claire sat near the back, pressing her wet shoes against the heater beneath the seat. Across the aisle, a mother divided a granola bar between two children. The smaller child asked whether she wanted any. The mother smiled. "I ate already." Claire knew she had not. 20 miles away, Ethan Parker stood beside a conveyor belt at the Bennett Hearth Distribution Center, stacking boxes of canned soup onto a wooden pallet. The warehouse smelled of cardboard, cold metal, and diesel fuel. A clock above the loading dock read 5:47. Ethan's shift had ended 17 minutes earlier, but a truck from Spokane had arrived late and the supervisor needed help unloading it. "You can go," his coworker Marcus said. "I will finish this row." Ethan lifted another box. "You already covered for me Tuesday. Your kid had a doctor's appointment, and you missed dinner with your wife." Marcus shrugged. "She is used to being disappointed." "That sounds healthy. It is a strong marriage." Ethan almost smiled. He set the box down and rubbed the ache in his shoulder. At the far end of the warehouse, an employee pushed a cart filled with sealed meal containers toward the disposal area. Ethan watched it pass. More waste. Marcus followed his gaze. "Restaurant order came back wrong. Those are still cold. Does not matter. It should." Marcus lowered his voice. "You filed the report. They ignored it. Let it go." Ethan looked toward the office windows above the warehouse floor. A supervisor stood behind the glass watching them. "I cannot. You have Mia to think about. That is why I cannot." Marcus sighed. "You keep fighting people with offices. They keep deciding your hours." Ethan lifted the final box. "Then maybe they should stop giving me reasons." In the locker room, he opened his pay envelope and checked the deduction for Mia's inhaler. The pharmacy had called that morning. Her refill was ready, but insurance had covered less than expected. Ethan counted the cash in his wallet. $24. The inhaler would cost $16.75. That left $7.25. He folded the bills carefully. In his locker was a copy of the complaint he had submitted 6 weeks earlier. He had photographed sealed food being pushed into locked containers. He had included dates, quantities, and the names of 3 local shelters willing to collect it. The response had arrived 9 days later. Request denied due to operational and liability concerns. 2 days after that, his application for a daytime schedule had also been denied. He had asked for the change because Mia's school nurse had called 3 times in 1 month. Her asthma had worsened with the cold, and Ethan needed to be available at night. Russell Kane's name appeared on both decisions. Ethan folded the complaint and returned it to the locker. Marcus leaned against the bench. "You going straight home, pharmacy first?" Dinner. Ethan held up the remaining bills. "I promised Mia soup. You want 20? No. It is not charity." "Then what is it? A loan I will forget to collect." Ethan smiled. "That sounds like charity with paperwork. Take the money. I am fine." Marcus shook his head. "You are the only man I know who says that like a threat." Ethan closed his locker. "See you tomorrow." Outside the warehouse, rain moved in silver sheets beneath the parking lot lights. Ethan pulled up his hood and walked toward the pharmacy. Across town, Mia Parker sat at the kitchen table in an apartment above a closed music store. The old sign downstairs still read Anderson Piano and Organ, though no one had entered the shop in almost 4 years. Whenever the wind blew hard, the loose metal letters rattled against the brick. Mia liked the sound. She said it made the building feel as though it were trying to sing. She had spread crayons across the table. On the page before her was a house with a blue door, 3 glowing windows, and smoke rising from a crooked chimney. 2 people sat at a long table inside. A 3rd chair stood empty. Ethan entered carrying the pharmacy bag. Mia jumped up. "You are late." "I know, you said 6. I know, it is 6:38. I also know you have become very good at reading clocks." She wrapped her arms around his waist. He closed his eyes for 1 second and held her close. The apartment was cold enough that he could feel her shoulder blades through her sweater. He looked toward the bedroom. A clear plastic sheet covered the cracked window. One corner had come loose and moved gently with the wind. "I will fix that tonight. You said that yesterday. Tonight is more serious." "How serious?" "Extremely serious." Mia released him. "Did you get my medicine?" Ethan raised the pharmacy bag. "Delivered by the finest man in Tacoma. You walked, the finest walking man in Tacoma." She smiled, then looked behind him. Where is the soup? I'm going to get it. You came home first. I wanted to bring your medicine. Mia returned to the table. Can we get the one with long noodles? We can. And rolls. Ethan removed the remaining cash from his wallet. 1 roll, 2, 1, 1.5. He considered her. You negotiate like a criminal. Mom said I got that from you. The room changed when she mentioned Rachel. Not dramatically, just enough. Ethan looked at the drawing on the table. What are you making our next house? The windows are too big, so the light can get out. Usually people want the light to stay in. Mia shook her head. Then nobody outside can see where the safe houses are. Ethan sat across from her. She added a red star above the blue door. What is that, so we remember which one is ours? She picked up a paper napkin and drew another red star in the corner. Then she wrote 3 words beneath it. Come home, Dad. The letter D leaned backward. She folded the napkin and handed it to him. For the roll. Ethan placed it in his coat pocket. I will guard it with my life. I am serious. So am I. Mia studied him. Are the people coming back? His smile faded. On the counter lay a large envelope from Pierce County Family Services. The caseworker had visited after the landlord reported the broken window and heating problems. The letter requested proof of stable income, safe housing, and consistent meals. Ethan had read it so many times that he knew every sentence. They are only checking on us, he said. Why? Because that is their job. Do they think you are bad at your job? My job as your dad? She nodded. Ethan reached across the table. No. It was the answer she needed, even if he was not certain it was true. They want to make sure you are safe. I am safe, I know. Then tell them. I will. Mia looked toward the empty refrigerator. What counts as a consistent meal? Ethan's throat tightened. Tonight it counts as soup. She seemed satisfied with that. He stood. I will be back soon. 7:30. 7:40. 7:35. Deal. He tapped the napkin inside his pocket. Mia pointed toward the door. Do not forget the rolls. Outside. The rain had grown heavier. Ethan walked 3 blocks toward the hearth house, his boots splashing through water along the curb. He could already imagine Mia's face when he carried the soup upstairs. He would divide it into 2 bowls. He would give her most of the noodles. He would pretend he preferred broth. By 7:12, Claire Bennett sat alone inside the restaurant beneath the name Clara Reed. Her coat dripped onto the floor. Her empty mug had gone cold between her hands. The server had already asked her twice whether she planned to order. Claire had answered honestly. She did not have enough money. Russell Kane arrived shortly afterward to inspect the location. He recognized a situation the moment he entered. A poorly dressed woman occupied a booth near the window. Customers were looking at her. The server appeared uncertain. Russell did not ask whether Claire was cold. He did not ask how long she had been waiting for the bus. He looked at her shoes, her coat, and the empty mug. Then he said the words Claire had spent the day preparing herself to hear. This restaurant is for paying customers. The front door opened behind him. Ethan stepped in from the rain. He carried a pharmacy bag under one arm. In his pocket were $7.25, a paper napkin, and a promise to a little girl waiting beneath a faded quilt. He ordered chicken noodle soup and 2 rolls. He counted every bill. He watched Russell tell Claire to leave. Then he watched Claire look toward the storm outside. For 1 long second, Ethan remained beside the counter. Steam rose from the bowl in front of him. His daughter's red star pressed against his chest. He lifted the tray. When he placed it before Claire, her face changed. Not because she recognized him, because he had recognized her. Not her name, not her position, only her hunger. Now, as Claire sat across from him with the spoon still trembling in her hand, she pushed the bowl gently toward the center of the table. You should take this home. Ethan shook his head. My daughter would not want me to. You cannot know that. A tired smile touched his face. You have not met her. Claire looked at the folded napkin showing above his pocket. The red star. She puts them on things she wants me to bring back. Claire lowered her eyes. What happens if you go home without the soup? Ethan looked through the rain-streaked window. I tell her why, and if she is disappointed, she is 9. She is allowed to be. Claire studied him. You do not try to protect her from everything I try. He looked back at her. But children know when adults are lying. They just learn to stop asking. The truth of the sentence settled between them. Claire lifted the spoon again. Across the dining room, Russell stood near the register, speaking quietly with the server. His gaze moved toward Ethan's coat, then toward the employee badge clipped near Ethan's pocket. Russell stopped speaking. He walked across the restaurant slowly. The polished soles of his shoes clicked against the tile. Ethan noticed him approaching and straightened. Russell looked at the name on the badge. His expression sharpened with recognition. "Parker," he said. Ethan's hand moved toward the badge. Russell smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ethan Parker. The room seemed to narrow around the table. Claire placed the spoon beside the bowl. Russell looked from Ethan to the meal he had given away. "I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you are." Russell Kane said Ethan's name as though it had been waiting in his mouth all evening. The rain pressed harder against the windows. Somewhere behind the kitchen doors, a metal pan struck the floor, followed by a cook's muffled curse. No one in the dining room moved. Ethan slowly removed the employee badge from his jacket and closed his fingers around it. "This is not the warehouse." Russell stepped closer to the table. "No. At the warehouse you usually hide behind complaint forms." Claire watched Ethan's jaw tighten. Until that moment she had seen only patience in him. Tired patience, perhaps worn thin by long shifts and unpaid bills, but patience all the same. Now something sharper moved behind his eyes. He placed the badge in his pocket. "I signed my name. You submitted accusations. I submitted photographs." Russell glanced around the restaurant, making sure the room was listening. "This man works at our Portside distribution center," he announced. "He has spent the last several weeks making false claims about our food handling procedures." Ethan did not look at the customers. He looked only at Russell. The food was sealed. It had been removed from inventory. It had not expired. "That is not your decision." It was still food. The words were plain, but they changed the air in the room. Claire looked toward the Bennett Hearth logo painted above the counter. Beneath it were the same words she had seen in the boardroom that morning. "Every table feels like home." Russell followed her gaze. He seemed annoyed that she was still sitting there. "You should be gone." Claire wrapped both hands around the warm bowl. "I am eating. You were told to leave." "She has food now," Ethan said. Russell gave him a cold smile. "Food you purchased with an employee discount. I paid the full price." The cashier behind the register lowered her eyes. Russell turned toward her. "Did he?" She hesitated. "Yes, sir. With cash." "Yes. How much?" The cashier looked confused. $7.25. The number moved through the room with more force than Claire expected. A man sitting near the window glanced at the bowl, then at Ethan's worn boots. A woman with 2 children stopped cutting a pancake into smaller pieces. Russell's expression did not change. "You came here with $7.25 and you decided to spend it creating a scene." Ethan's voice remained quiet. "I decided to buy dinner. For a stranger. For a person." Russell looked down at Claire. "She is not your responsibility." Ethan's eyes moved toward the green coat still dripping onto the floor. "That is what everyone says right before they leave someone outside." Claire felt the sentence settle somewhere beneath her ribs. She had heard 1,000 speeches about community. She had approved campaigns built around belonging. She had stood before investors and described Bennett Hearth as a company guided by human values. Ethan had said more in one sentence than the company had managed to say in years. Russell leaned closer. "You think this makes you honorable?" Ethan looked at the soup. "No." "Then what does it make you?" Ethan's gaze returned to Claire. "Late getting home." For a moment, Claire almost smiled. Russell did not. He looked at the paper pharmacy bag near Ethan's elbow. "What is that?" Ethan reached for it. "Nothing that concerns you." Russell read the label before Ethan could turn it away. Mia Parker. The change in Ethan was immediate. His shoulders became still. Claire noticed his right hand close around the edge of the table. Russell noticed too. "Your daughter, do not say her name. I only read the bag." "Then stop reading." Russell's expression sharpened. The diners who had once seemed entertained were no longer smiling. The young server stood near the coffee station holding an empty pot. She had not moved for almost a minute. Russell looked around the room. Mr. Parker has a habit of reacting emotionally when company policies do not suit him. Ethan rose from the booth. He did not stand quickly, but the movement made Russell take half a step back. Claire placed the spoon beside the bowl. Ethan. He looked at her. The sound of his name in her voice seemed to reach him through the anger. Claire had not meant to speak. She had promised herself she would observe. She needed to see Russell without the restraints of her title. She needed to know how far he would go when he believed no one powerful was watching. But Ethan's face had changed when Russell said Mia's name. Claire knew that look. It was the look of someone standing between danger and the person they loved most. Ethan slowly released the table. Russell regained his ground. "You see," he said, "this is exactly the problem." Ethan sat again, though every part of him resisted it. Claire lowered her voice. "Is Mia sick?" He glanced at the pharmacy bag. "Asthma. Is she all right? She will be when I bring that home." The answer was short, but the strain beneath it was not. Claire looked at the paper napkin in his pocket. The red star was still visible. "You should go." Ethan shook his head. "Not while he is standing here. I can take care of myself. I know." Something in the way he said it made her look at him more closely. He did not see her as helpless. He saw the unfairness of the room and had decided not to leave her alone inside it. That was different. Claire pushed the bowl a few inches toward him. "Sit." His eyebrows lifted. "My coat is already wet," she said. "The seat cannot get worse." He looked at Russell, then at her. At last he slid into the booth across from her. Russell remained beside the table. Claire lifted the spoon. "If you are going to watch me eat, you could at least bring coffee." The young server's eyes widened. A few customers looked down to hide smiles. Russell stared at Claire as though she had forgotten her place. She had not. She was beginning to understand exactly where he believed her place should be. Russell turned away. "I am calling your supervisor," he told Ethan. Ethan leaned back against the booth. "My shift ended 2 hours ago. You are still representing the company." I took off the badge. "You cannot take off your conduct." Ethan gave a tired laugh. "Funny. You seem to manage." Russell stopped near the register. His face changed. The room had heard it. Claire had heard it too, and this time she did smile. Ethan looked at her. It was the first unguarded expression she had seen from him. "You should not encourage me," he said. I did not say anything. "You smiled. That is not against company policy yet." His smile came slowly. It transformed him. For a brief second the exhaustion lifted from his face, and Claire saw the man he might have been before grief, debt, and fear taught him to conserve every expression. He looked younger, warmer, dangerously easy to like. Claire lowered her eyes to the soup. The thought unsettled her. She was not supposed to be Claire Bennett at that table. She was Clara Reed, a woman with wet shoes and no money. Ethan knew nothing about the offices above Seattle or the house she rarely slept in or the black car waiting when she chose to call. He was smiling at someone who did not exist. Russell moved toward the far end of the counter and began speaking into his phone. His voice was low, but Claire caught several words. Portside, employee incident, aggressive behavior. Ethan heard them too. He rubbed a hand over his face. Claire watched the deep line between his eyebrows. "Why did you file the complaint?" He looked at her. "You heard him. I heard his version." Ethan glanced toward Russell. A restaurant order came back to the warehouse. Sandwiches, soup bakery boxes. Enough food to fill 2 carts. What was wrong with it? Nothing. Then why was it discarded? The order had been entered under the wrong location. By the time they corrected the paperwork, it had been removed from inventory. Claire's fingers tightened around the spoon. "Removed from inventory does not mean spoiled. That is what I said. What happened? They told us to destroy it. And you refused. I asked whether we could call a shelter." Russell's voice carried from across the room. He was told no. Ethan did not look away from Claire. They locked the disposal container. Why to stop people from taking the food? Claire felt heat rise beneath the collar of the thin coat. People, Ethan's expression changed. The memory was still close. There is a fence behind the loading dock. A woman was standing there with a little boy. He looked toward the restaurant window, but Claire understood he was seeing another place. The boy watched us throw everything away. What did his mother do? She covered his eyes. Claire put the spoon down. Ethan's voice became quieter. "That is why I filed the complaint." Russell ended his call. "You filed it because you do not understand liability." Ethan turned. "I understand hunger." Russell walked back toward the booth. His polished shoes stopped beside the puddle beneath Claire's coat. "You have made quite a performance of it tonight." Ethan's face hardened. "No one is performing." Russell looked at the customers holding their phones. "Then why is everyone watching?" "Because you keep raising your voice." The woman seated with 2 children nodded before catching herself. Russell saw. His control over the room was weakening. Claire saw it too. He had built his authority on the assumption that no one would challenge him. Ethan had not shouted. He had not threatened. He had simply refused to accept Russell's version of what was reasonable. That refusal frightened Russell more than anger would have. Claire lifted another spoonful of soup. It was no longer hot. Still she ate. Russell looked down at her. "You have had enough." Ethan moved his hand between Russell and the bowl. "She decides that." Russell stared at his hand. "Move." "No." The word was quiet. Claire looked at Ethan. His eyes remained on Russell, but his hand did not shake. Russell leaned closer. "You are already under review for your behavior at the warehouse." Ethan's brow tightened. "What review?" Russell smiled. "The one your supervisor should have discussed with you. There is no review. There is now." Claire felt a coldness move through her that had nothing to do with the wet coat. Because he reported food waste, she asked. Russell looked at her as though her question did not deserve an answer, because he failed to follow procedure. Ethan leaned forward. "You denied the complaint. It was resolved. You buried it." Russell's expression hardened. "You should think carefully about what you say in public." "I thought carefully 6 weeks ago, and look where that brought you." The threat hung between them. Claire watched the people at the nearby tables begin to understand that this was not only about a bowl of soup. Russell was not correcting an employee. He was punishing one. Ethan looked at the pharmacy bag again. For the first time, fear moved across his face. Not fear of Russell. Fear of what Russell could take. Claire wanted to say her name. She wanted to stand and end it. One sentence would force Russell to step back. One sentence would protect Ethan's job. But it would also change everything. Russell would apologize. The server would bring coffee. The customers would lower their phones. Every face in the room would rearrange itself around power. Claire needed the truth before power corrected its posture. She hated the cost of waiting. Russell pulled out his phone. "Your supervisor is contacting human resources." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "For what? Workplace misconduct. I am not at work. You are confronting a regional director inside a company location." "You confronted her." Russell gave a short laugh. "You do not understand how this works." Ethan looked at him. "I think I do." Claire saw Russell's gaze fall again to the pharmacy bag, then to the red star on the napkin. His expression shifted with a new idea. A crueler one. "Perhaps you should be more concerned with your own household." Ethan became still. Claire looked between them. Russell continued. "You requested emergency scheduling support last month." Ethan's voice dropped. "That was confidential. You submitted documentation to human resources. You submitted it to the company." Claire's hand tightened beneath the table. Russell knew exactly what he was doing. He was not losing control. He was choosing to hurt Ethan in the place most likely to silence him. Russell folded his arms. "You claimed your daughter's health required more stable hours. It does. You also submitted a letter from Family Services." Ethan stood again. The table moved beneath his hands. "Stop." Several customers turned their phones fully toward him. Russell's eyes flicked to the screens. He had found the image he wanted. An angry employee, a threatening man, a story easier to control than the truth. Claire stood beside Ethan. "Sit down," Russell said. He was speaking to Ethan, but Claire answered. "No." Russell looked at her. Claire stepped between them. She could feel Ethan breathing behind her. Russell's face showed disbelief. "You have no idea what you are involving yourself in." Claire held his gaze. "I know more than you think." For 1 second she nearly said it. Claire Bennett, Chief Executive Officer, the owner of every light in the room. But then Ethan spoke behind her. "Leave my daughter out of this." Russell turned his attention back to him. Why she is part of your request. She is not part of this room. You brought her into the company's business. I asked for a schedule that would let me take care of her. You asked the company to solve your personal failures. The words struck Ethan like an open hand. Claire felt him flinch, only once. Then he gathered himself. Russell continued. You complain that we waste food while you struggle to provide meals at home. You accuse management of lacking compassion while county officials question whether your apartment is suitable for a child. The restaurant had become silent enough to hear rainwater running through the gutter outside. Ethan looked down at the table. Claire saw shame cross his face. Not because Russell's words were true, because private pain had been dragged into public light. The woman with 2 children reached for her purse, but this time she was not protecting it. She pulled out several bills and set them near the edge of her plate. The man near the window lowered his phone. Even the young server looked at Russell differently. Ethan raised his head. I work every shift they give me. Russell shrugged. Then perhaps it is not enough. I repair heaters on weekends. Still not enough. I have never let my daughter go without medicine. Russell glanced at the pharmacy bag. And tonight, Ethan's face changed. Russell nodded toward the soup. Is this how you provide for her? Giving away the only meal you can afford so strangers can admire you? Claire turned toward Ethan. His eyes had gone distant. She imagined the little girl at home waiting at a table with 2 empty bowls. Ethan's hand went to the napkin in his pocket, the red star pressed beneath his fingers. Russell saw the gesture, a child at home while her father plays hero. Ethan took 1 step forward. Claire touched his wrist. His skin was cold from the rain. He looked at her. She did not speak loudly. Do not give him the version of you he wants to record. His breathing slowed. Claire felt the tension in his arm. For several seconds he did not move. Then his hand opened. The people holding phones had captured nothing but restraint. Russell's jaw tightened. Ethan looked at him. I do not need anyone here to admire me. Then why are you still here? Ethan glanced at Claire. Because she had not finished eating. 3 small words, no speech, no performance. Claire looked at the bowl. Half the soup remained. She had never felt less hungry. She had never understood the value of food more. Russell reached toward the tray. Claire pulled it back. She is done, he said. I will decide when I am done. His fingers closed around the edge. Ethan moved to stop him. The tray shifted between them. The bowl struck the side of the table. For 1 suspended second, it balanced there. Then it tipped. Tomato-colored broth spilled across the table, soaked the napkins, and poured over the edge. The bowl struck the floor and cracked. Soup spread across Ethan's boots. The spoon spun once on the tile, then stopped beneath the booth. No one moved. Russell looked down at the mess. It slipped. Claire stared at him. No, it did not. His eyes met hers. Something inside her had changed. She was no longer tired, no longer cold. The woman in the green coat had become very still. Ethan looked at the empty tray, then at Claire. I am sorry. The apology broke something in her. You did not do this. He crouched and reached for the broken bowl. The server hurried forward. Do not touch that. I will clean it. Ethan gathered the wet napkins. It is fine. Russell stepped away. Leave it for the staff. Ethan looked up at him. You already left enough for them. He placed the broken pieces carefully on the tray. Claire crouched beside him. He glanced at her. You do not have to. Neither do you. They both reached for the spoon. Their fingers met beneath the table. Ethan stopped. For the first time since Russell had said his name, all the hardness left his face. Claire's hand remained beneath his. The contact lasted only a second, but the room around her seemed to quiet in a different way. Not because people were watching, because Ethan was. He looked at her as if he had just remembered she was more than the reason for the conflict. Her breath caught. She pulled the spoon free and placed it on the tray. The server knelt with a towel. I can bring another bowl. Russell turned sharply. No. She looked at him. It is already prepared. I said no. The server's face changed. She stood. I heard you. Then she walked toward the kitchen anyway. Russell stared after her. A man near the counter rose from his stool. You should let her bring the soup. Russell looked at him. This does not concern you." The man picked up his coat. "It concerned all of us when you made us watch." The woman with 2 children placed the bills from her purse on Claire's table. "For dinner," she said. Claire did not touch the money. "Thank you." One of the children looked at Ethan. "Is your daughter hungry?" His mother whispered his name, embarrassed. Ethan answered gently, "Probably." The boy pushed a wrapped cracker packet across the table. "For her." Ethan stared at it. Then he took it with both hands. "Thank you." The child nodded as though an important agreement had been made. Russell looked around the room. The authority had gone out of his voice before he spoke. "Both of you need to leave." Ethan stood. He wiped the last of the soup from his boots with a clean napkin. Claire rose beside him. The server returned carrying a fresh bowl. Russell blocked her path. "Put it down." She looked at Claire, then at Ethan. Her hands trembled. Ethan shook his head. "It is all right." The server's eyes filled with shame. "No, it is not." Russell pointed toward the kitchen. "Now." She carried the bowl back through the swinging doors. Claire watched the steam disappear behind them. Ethan reached for his jacket zipper. "What are you doing?" she asked. He removed the jacket. The shirt beneath it was thin, the cuffs frayed. He placed the jacket around Claire's shoulders. Warmth from his body still clung to the lining. "You will freeze. I have been cold before, so have I. Then you know better." He pulled the collar gently around her neck. His hands paused near her shoulders. Claire looked up at him. The nearness felt sudden. The restaurant rustle, the phones, and the ruined soup seemed to fade beyond the small circle of warmth between them. Ethan stepped back first. "Where are you going?" "Bus stop. I will walk you. You have a daughter waiting." "The stop is across the street." Claire looked through the window. Rain swept across the parking lot in bright silver lines. Ethan picked up the pharmacy bag and tucked the cracker packet inside it. He checked the roll in his pocket. The napkin was damp, but the red star remained. Russell stood near the counter. "This incident will be reported." Ethan opened the restaurant door. "Make sure you spell my name right." Cold air rushed into the room. Claire followed him outside. The rain struck the borrowed jacket, but very little reached her. Ethan walked beside her without an umbrella. At the curb, he placed one hand lightly at her back as a truck passed through a puddle. The gesture was careful, protective without possession. They crossed beneath the blinking restaurant sign. At the bus shelter, half the plastic roof was missing. Ethan moved Claire beneath the intact side. "You do this often?" she asked. "Walk people to buses. Give away dinner." He looked toward the road. "Not often enough to be good at it. You did not hesitate." "I did." Claire studied him. "For how long? Long enough to picture my daughter's face." The answer hurt more than if he had lied. "Do you regret it?" Ethan looked at her. "No. You might when you get home. Maybe." The rain ran down his hair and along his jaw. Claire pulled the jacket open. "Stand closer. I am fine. You keep saying that. So do you." She looked away. He had noticed. Ethan stepped beneath the small section of roof close enough that their shoulders touched. Claire could feel him shivering. "What will you tell Mia? The truth? That a stranger took her dinner, that someone was hungry?" Claire looked at the road. "And if she asks who I was," Ethan's voice softened. "I do not know." She turned toward him. "My real name is not Clara." The bus appeared at the far end of the street. Its headlights moved through the rain. Ethan waited. Claire opened her mouth. For 1 second, she almost gave him everything. Her name, her office, her responsibility. The bus pulled to the curb with a hiss. The doors folded open. Ethan stepped back. "You should go." Claire held the jacket closed. "This is yours. Keep it until you are dry." "How will I return it?" He looked at her. A faint smile touched his face. "Maybe you will have to find me." Claire's heart moved unexpectedly. She climbed onto the bus. Before the doors closed, she turned. Ethan stood beneath the broken shelter in his thin shirt, one hand in his pocket around the roll meant for Mia. The driver pulled away. Through the wet glass, Claire watched Ethan become smaller beneath the streetlight. Inside the restaurant, the assistant manager stood near the window with his phone. He opened the video he had recorded. The first minute showed Russell refusing Claire service. They showed Ethan placing the meal in front of her. They showed Russell mentioning Mia. They showed the bowl being knocked from the table. The assistant manager dragged his finger across the screen. He cut the beginning. Then he cut the moment the soup spilled. The remaining clip began with Ethan standing above the broken bowl, his face tight with anger, while Russell's voice sounded calm beyond the frame. The assistant manager typed a caption. "Disgruntled warehouse employee threatens regional director at Bennett Hearth, Tacoma." He pressed upload. By the time Ethan reached the apartment above the closed music store, the first 100 people had already watched the lie. He climbed the narrow staircase with rainwater dripping from his hair and the pharmacy bag pressed beneath one arm. Every step made the old wood complain. Behind the apartment door, a lamp glowed softly. Mia had left it on for him. Ethan stood in the hallway for a moment, looking at the strip of warm light beneath the door. His shirt clung cold against his back. His hands still smelled faintly of tomato soup and restaurant soap. He reached into his pocket. The dinner roll was damp along one edge, but the paper napkin remained wrapped around it. The red star had blurred slightly in the rain. "Come home, Dad." He closed his eyes. Then he unlocked the door. The apartment was quiet. 2 bowls waited on the kitchen table. Mia had placed a spoon beside each one. In the center sat a glass of water with 2 yellow flowers she had made from folded paper. She was asleep on the sofa beneath the faded blue quilt. One sock had slipped halfway off her foot. A crayon rested in her open hand. Ethan shut the door gently. The old metal sign below the apartment moved in the wind, making the brick wall hum. Mia stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. "You are late." Ethan looked at the clock. It was 10:46. "I know." She sat up and pushed the quilt away. "Did the bus break? No. Did you help somebody fix something?" He placed the pharmacy bag on the table. "Something like that." Mia looked toward his empty hands. "Where is the soup?" The question was quiet. That made it harder. Ethan removed the roll from his pocket and set it on the table. Mia stared at it. There was soup, he said, but someone needed it. More than us. Ethan pulled out a chair. "Come sit with me." She did not move. Who a woman at the restaurant? Did she have a house I do not know? Did she have a daughter? I do not know that either. Mia looked at the single roll. "So you gave her all of it?" "Yes." The wind pushed against the plastic covering the bedroom window. Mia looked toward the sound, then back at Ethan. "You promised." "I know." Her face tightened. Ethan did not tell her not to be upset. He did not tell her she should be proud of him. He sat beneath the weak kitchen light and waited. Mia crossed her arms. "I was hungry, I know. You said long noodles, I know, and 2 rolls. I could only afford 1. You did not tell me that." "No." Why, Ethan looked down at his hands. "Because I wanted the promise to sound bigger than the money." Mia's anger softened, but it did not disappear. She walked to the table and sat across from him. Was the woman cold? Yes. Was she crying not where people could see? Mia looked at the roll again. "Did people make fun of her?" Ethan nodded. "Did you know?" She touched the damp napkin. The red star had stained the paper around it. "What was her name?" She said, "Clara, you do not believe her." Ethan looked toward the dark window. "I think she was trying to tell me another name. Why did she not? The bus came." Mia opened the napkin. The roll was flattened on one side. She tore it in half, studied both pieces, then pushed the larger one toward Ethan. He pushed it back. "You take it. You did not eat. Neither did you." "I had crackers at school. That was hours ago." She pushed the larger half toward him again. "We share things here." Ethan looked at her. The words carried the same simple certainty he had felt when he placed the soup before Claire. He tore the larger piece in half once more. Mia frowned. "That is cheating. It is dividing. You made yours smaller. I am older. I need less bread. That is not science. It is father science." She almost smiled. They ate in silence. The roll was cold and slightly wet, but Mia chewed slowly as though she could make it last. Afterward, Ethan gave her the inhaler. She read the pharmacy label. $16. "Do not worry about that. You say that when I should worry." Ethan took the box from her. "You should worry about spelling tests and whether Mrs. Adams knows you are drawing during math. She knows. That is worse." Mia climbed onto his lap. The anger had left her, but something uncertain remained. "Did the woman say thank you?" "Yes." "Did you believe her?" Ethan remembered Claire standing beneath the broken bus shelter with his jacket around her shoulders. He remembered the way she had looked at him before the doors closed. Yes. Mia rested her head against his chest. "You smell like soup." He held her. "That is because I fought a giant bowl of it. Did you win, no?" She yawned. "Maybe tomorrow." Ethan carried her to the sofa and tucked the quilt around her. The bedroom was too cold tonight. He sat on the floor beside her until her breathing became even. Then his phone began vibrating on the kitchen table. One notification, then another, then 5 more. Ethan looked at the screen. Marcus had sent him a link. "Call me before you watch this." Ethan opened the video. It began with him standing beside the broken bowl. His face looked tense. Russell stood several feet away, calm and composed. Claire was mostly hidden behind Ethan's shoulder. The recording did not show the meal. It did not show Russell saying Mia's name. It did not show the tray being pulled from Claire. A caption filled the screen. "Disgruntled warehouse employee threatens regional director at Bennett Hearth, Tacoma." The video ended as Ethan stepped toward Russell. Comments appeared beneath it faster than he could read. "Fire him. Another angry employee looking for money. That child should not be living with someone like this." Ethan stopped scrolling. He looked toward Mia. She was still asleep beneath the quilt, one hand tucked under her cheek. His phone rang. "Marcus," Ethan answered. "You saw it," Marcus said. "Yes, it is cut." "I know. I was not there, but I know you. That will not matter. It matters to me." Ethan sat at the kitchen table. How many people have seen it? Almost 9,000. Ethan looked at the clock. The video had been online for less than an hour. Russell posted it. "The account belongs to someone from the restaurant. People at work are sharing it. Of course they are. Do not respond. I was not going to. Do not go near the warehouse either. I am scheduled tomorrow." Marcus was silent. "What our supervisor told me Human Resources called." Ethan's eyes moved to the envelope from Family Services. "When 10 minutes ago." "What did they say?" "Nothing official." "That means something official is coming." "Ethan, I need the hours. I know." "No, you do not." The words came out harder than Ethan intended. Marcus did not answer. Ethan pressed his fingers against his eyes. "I am sorry. It is fine." "It is not." "I know that too." Ethan looked at the plastic sheet moving over the bedroom window. "Do you have the full video?" "No. Anyone inside the restaurant, I will ask." "Do not get yourself involved." Marcus gave a quiet laugh. "You filed a complaint over sandwiches and got your hours cut. I think I am already involved." The call ended. Ethan sat alone in the kitchen. His wet boots stood near the heater. The Red Star napkin lay open on the table. Beside it was Mia's drawing of the house with the blue door. The third chair was still empty. At 6:10 the next morning, the phone rang again. Ethan had not slept. He was sitting at the table wearing the same clothes when his supervisor's name appeared on the screen. He answered before the second ring. "Mr. Parker," the supervisor said. He never called Ethan that, not unless someone else was listening. "Morning. I have Human Resources on the line." A second voice joined them. A woman introduced herself as Janet Wells from Corporate Employee Relations. Ethan looked toward the sofa. Mia was asleep, but the apartment was too small for privacy. He moved into the hallway and pulled the door almost closed behind him. Janet spoke in a careful, practiced tone. "We are reviewing an incident that occurred last night at the Tacoma Hearth House location. I was not working. You were involved in an altercation with a regional executive. There was no altercation. The video suggests otherwise. The video is cut. We understand there may be additional context. There is. Until that context is reviewed, you are suspended from scheduled duties." Ethan gripped the stair railing. "With pay." A pause. "Without pay at this stage. I need those shifts. This is a temporary measure. How temporary, we cannot provide a timeline. My daughter's health insurance is through the company. Your benefits remain active during the review." "What about my income?" Another pause. His supervisor spoke. "Ethan, I am sorry." Ethan closed his eyes. "You were there when I filed the complaint?" "Yes." "You saw the photographs?" "Yes." "You know why Russell did this?" His supervisor lowered his voice. "I believe there is more to the situation. Belief does not pay rent. No, it does not fix a window either." The human resources representative interrupted. "Mr. Parker, I understand this is difficult." Ethan looked down the dark stairwell. "No, you understand there is paperwork." No one answered. He ended the call. When he returned to the apartment, Mia was sitting upright on the sofa. She had heard enough. "You are not going to work, not today. Why, they need to ask me some questions. About the woman, about the restaurant." Mia watched his face. "Are you in trouble?" "No. You look like trouble." Ethan sat beside her. "Someone put a video online that does not show everything." "Why?" "Because sometimes people choose the part that helps them." "Can you show the other part? I am trying." Mia pulled the quilt closer. "Will they stop paying you?" Ethan did not answer quickly enough. Her eyes moved toward the family services envelope on the table. "Are the people coming back?" Before Ethan could speak, his phone rang again. The caller identification showed Pierce County. He stared at it. Mia followed his eyes. "You have to answer. I know." He stepped into the kitchen. "Mr. Parker," a woman said. "This is Laura Bell from Family Services. Good morning. I am calling regarding your current household review." Ethan looked at Mia. She was pretending not to listen. "We received notice of an employment interruption through the verification system. It happened less than an hour ago, I understand. It is a suspension, not a termination. We still need updated proof of income and household stability. My supervisor can confirm the job is active. We will request documentation. How long do I have?" "We are scheduled to visit next Tuesday." "That is 6 days." "Yes. The window is not fixed yet. We discussed that during the previous visit. My landlord said he was ordering the glass. Has the heating improved?" Ethan looked at the old heater. It clicked twice and released a weak breath of warm air. "Some." Laura's voice softened. "Mr. Parker, I know you are trying." He leaned against the counter. "I am not asking you to know that. What are you asking?" "I am asking you not to confuse being poor with being unsafe." Silence passed between them. "We will complete the assessment based on the full household situation." "What does that mean?" "It means no decision has been made. That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give you this morning." The call ended. Mia stood near the kitchen doorway. Her bare feet were cold against the floor. "Are they taking me somewhere?" Ethan put the phone down. "No one is here to take you anywhere." "That is not what I asked." He crossed the room and knelt before her. She looked small inside the oversized sweatshirt that had belonged to Rachel. "Are they going to make me live with other people?" Ethan wanted to say never. The word rose in his throat. He could not force it past the fear. Instead, he placed both hands on Mia's shoulders. "I am going to fix the window. I am going to find the full video. I am going to prove I still have a job." Her eyes filled. "That is still not no." Ethan pulled her into his arms. "I know." She held on to him. For several minutes, neither moved. Across the city, Claire Bennett watched the edited video in her office. She had arrived before sunrise wearing the green coat beneath Ethan's work jacket. Her hair was still damp. Mud marked the heels of her borrowed shoes. Dana stood beside the conference table with a tablet in one hand. "The video has passed 40,000 views," she said. Claire watched it again without sound. Ethan stood near the spilled soup. Russell appeared controlled. The angle made Ethan seem larger, angrier, closer to violence. Claire paused the frame. "Where is the beginning? This is the only version online. Then it is not the only version that exists." Dana set the tablet down. Russell's office issued a preliminary statement at 5:30. Claire looked up. Without approval, he called it an immediate customer safety response. What did he say? That an employee confronted a regional director during a disturbance. He created the disturbance. "I know. He mentioned Ethan's daughter." "I know. He used confidential information." Dana nodded. Claire removed Ethan's jacket and folded it across the back of a chair. "Get every camera from the restaurant." "I already requested them. Not selected clips. Every file." "Yes. Dining room, counter, kitchen entrance, parking lot, audio." Dana picked up her phone. "Russell will ask why." Claire looked toward the city. "Let him." While they waited, Dana brought Ethan's employee file. Claire opened it at the conference table. The first pages contained ordinary records: attendance, safety training, performance reviews. Ethan had not missed a shift in 14 months. His supervisor described him as reliable, skilled, and willing to stay late when shipments arrived behind schedule. Then Claire found the complaint. The photographs in Ethan's file matched those from the anonymous envelope. He had listed exact dates and quantities. He had named 3 shelters willing to collect the food. He had included a proposal for safe transfer. It was not an emotional accusation. It was careful work. Russell had denied it in 4 words. No operational benefit identified. Claire turned the page. Ethan's emergency scheduling request included a letter from Mia's doctor and a notice from Family Services. Russell had marked the request low priority. Claire stared at the words. Dana stood across from her. Russell made those decisions. Claire looked up. He made them inside a system I approved. You did not know. I was not supposed to build a company where ignorance protected me. Dana said nothing. Claire closed the file. I stood in a boardroom yesterday and asked what happened to the meal program. You challenged him. After months of reports told me costs were down. You cannot see every decision, no. But I decide what gets rewarded. She looked at the performance chart still displayed on the wall. We praised him for reducing waste. We never asked where the food went. The security files arrived shortly before 10. Claire sat alone while the first recording began. The wide dining room camera showed her entering in the green coat. It showed the server refusing coffee. It showed Russell standing over her booth. Then Ethan came through the door. Claire watched him count the money. Once, twice. He separated one roll from the meal before he heard Russell raise his voice. Then he stopped. For several seconds, Ethan stood beside the counter with the tray in his hands. Claire could see the choice moving across his face. He looked down at the soup. He touched the napkin in his pocket. Then he crossed the room. Claire leaned closer to the screen. He had hesitated. He had pictured Mia. He had understood the cost. Then he had given the meal away anyway. The next recording captured Russell reading Mia's name from the pharmacy bag. Claire heard the exact moment Ethan's voice changed. She heard herself tell him not to give Russell the version he wanted to record. Then the tray moved. The bowl fell. Russell had not dropped it by accident. His hand had pushed the edge. Claire watched Ethan kneel. She watched herself kneel beside him. Their hands met beneath the table. The camera caught only a second of it. Claire paused. Her fingers rested against the screen. Dana entered quietly. There is also footage from the parking lot. Claire played it. Rain covered the image in white lines. Ethan walked beside her toward the bus shelter. He removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. He stood in the rain while she remained beneath the intact section of roof. The bus arrived. Claire stepped inside. Ethan stayed behind. For several seconds he watched the bus disappear. Then he reached into his pocket and removed the damp napkin. The red star appeared clearly beneath the streetlight. Ethan opened the roll. He broke it carefully. One piece was larger than the other. He studied both, then wrapped them again. Claire pressed pause. The office became silent. Dana looked at Ethan's jacket draped over the chair. He gave you the meal and the coat. Claire nodded, and the larger half of the roll was still going home to his daughter. Dana's voice softened. Claire. Claire touched the sleeve of the jacket. I almost told him. Why did you not? Because everyone would have changed. Would he? Claire looked at the frozen image of Ethan beneath the bus shelter. No. She believed it completely. That certainty frightened her more than doubt. Ethan had offered kindness to someone he believed could give him nothing. Now he had lost his income because of her company. Anything personal she felt had to remain behind justice. She folded the jacket carefully. Find out who uploaded the clip. We have the account. Preserve every message connected to it. Dana nodded. What about Ethan lift the suspension? Human Resources needs authorization. They have it. Russell may challenge it. He can do that in front of the board. Claire stood. Schedule the regional directors, legal counsel, communications, and employee relations. For when 3 o'clock. Dana looked at the green coat. Are you wearing that Claire put it on? The fabric was still cold at the cuffs. Yes. At 3 o'clock, the boardroom doors opened. Claire stepped inside wearing the coat Russell had believed made her powerless. Conversation stopped at once. Russell sat near the center of the long glass table with a leather folder open before him. 2 attorneys occupied the seats to his right. The head of communications sat across from them, holding a printed statement covered with handwritten revisions. At the far end of the room, Janet Wells from Employee Relations avoided Claire's eyes. Dana entered behind her and closed the doors. Russell rose halfway from his chair. "Claire, we were just reviewing the incident." Claire walked to the head of the table. "I know. We have a response prepared. I read it." Russell glanced toward the communications director. "It is preliminary. It calls Ethan Parker unstable. The video shows aggressive behavior. The video shows what someone wanted the public to see." Russell's expression remained calm. "We should be careful about making assumptions before the review is complete." Claire removed Ethan's folded work jacket from the garment bag in Dana's hands. She placed it on the table. Russell looked at the reflective strips on the sleeves. Then he noticed the faded green coat Claire was wearing. Recognition moved across his face. It came slowly at first, then all at once. The attorneys looked between them. Claire held Russell's gaze. "You told me I was not a customer." No one moved. Russell's mouth opened, but his first answer failed to arrive. "You were at the restaurant," he said finally. "Yes. You represented yourself as someone else. I gave the server a different name. That is misrepresentation." Claire pulled out the chair at the head of the table, but did not sit. "I removed my title. I did not ask anyone to break a law. You created an artificial situation. I asked for hot water." Russell's eyes shifted toward the others. This was clearly a test. "No," Claire said. It became one. The communications director slowly turned the prepared statement face down. Russell buttoned his jacket. "If I had known who you were, the situation would have been handled differently." Claire looked around the room. "That is the problem." Silence settled over the table. Russell tried again. "You entered a location dressed in a way that could reasonably cause concern. The staff responded according to safety policy. Which safety policy allows a regional director to expose an employee's family records in front of customers?" Janet Wells looked down at her notes. Russell's jaw tightened. "Mr. Parker became confrontational after you said his daughter's name. He had submitted those records to the company, to employee relations," Claire said. "Not to you for use in a dining room." Russell turned toward Janet. "Regional leadership has access to scheduling documentation." Janet looked at Claire. "Scheduling documentation, yes. Medical and family review attachments should have remained restricted." Russell's eyes hardened. That distinction was not clear in the system. Claire placed both hands on the back of her chair. "You understood it clearly enough to use the information when you wanted to humiliate him." "I was attempting to de-escalate a threat." "You were creating one." Claire looked toward Dana. "Play the public video." The wall screen came alive. The edited clip began with Ethan standing over the broken bowl. His body blocked most of Claire from view. Russell appeared several feet away, his hands open, his voice controlled. The video ended before Ethan helped Claire leave. A caption identified him as a disgruntled warehouse worker. When the screen went dark, Russell leaned back. "That is the material currently shaping public perception." Claire picked up the remote. "Yes." She pressed another button. The full dining room recording began. Claire appeared near the window in the green coat. The server approached her table. The room heard Claire ask for hot water. They heard the refusal. They watched Russell enter and order the server not to feed her. No one at the table spoke. The recording continued. Ethan came through the front door with rain on his shoulders. He placed the pharmacy bag on the counter. He counted his money twice, $7.25. The cashier pushed the tray toward him. On the screen, Ethan heard Russell tell Claire to leave. He stopped. He looked at the soup. His hand moved toward the paper napkin in his pocket. The room watched him hesitate. Then he crossed the restaurant and placed the meal in front of her. Claire did not look at the screen. She watched the people around the table. Janet Wells pressed her lips together. One of the attorneys removed his glasses. The communications director stared at the printed statement she had turned over. Russell remained still. Ethan's voice filled the room. "She has food now." The recording moved forward. Russell identified him. He mentioned the complaint. He said Mia's name. When he disclosed the family services review, Janet closed her folder. Russell shifted in his chair. "The audio does not capture the full atmosphere." Claire looked at him. "It captures your words." He was escalating. "Keep watching." The room saw Ethan rise. They saw Claire touch his wrist. They heard her tell him not to give Russell the version he wanted to record. Ethan sat down. His hands opened. Russell continued speaking. The tray moved. The bowl tipped. Soup poured over the edge of the table and struck the floor. The footage showed Russell's hand pushing the tray. The sound of the bowl breaking filled the boardroom. No one looked at Russell now. On the screen, Ethan crouched. He collected the pieces. Claire knelt beside him. The young server offered another bowl and Russell refused. A customer protested. Another customer left money on the table. A child pushed a packet of crackers toward Ethan. The recording ended as Ethan placed his jacket around Claire's shoulders. The screen went dark again. Russell exhaled slowly. An unfortunate interaction does not erase the broader conduct issue. Claire displayed the photographs from Ethan's complaint. Sealed sandwiches, prepared meals, bread, produce. The woman and child behind the loading dock fence. Then she displayed Ethan's written proposal. Dates, quantities, shelter contacts. A transfer process, safety procedures. "Is this the false complaint you described?" Claire asked. Russell looked toward the attorneys. "It lacked a complete legal review, so you denied it. It did not offer a measurable operational benefit. It offered food to hungry people. We are not a charity." Claire glanced at the Bennett Hearth logo printed on the folders before them. "No, we are a food company." Russell leaned forward. "This company cannot be managed according to every emotional reaction from an employee." Ethan did not offer an emotional reaction. He offered records. He photographed restricted property. He documented waste. He violated procedure. Because your procedure protected the waste. Russell's voice rose for the first time. "My responsibility is to maintain control across a regional network. Once we allow employees to distribute inventory according to personal judgment, we create legal exposure, theft risk, inconsistent reporting, and public disorder." Several people at the table listened carefully. It was the argument Russell should have made from the beginning. It was reasonable enough to sound responsible. Claire let the words remain in the room. Then she displayed a list of local organizations that already operated food recovery programs under existing safety agreements. Ethan included 3 of these organizations in his complaint. Russell looked at the screen. He was not authorized to negotiate with them. He did not negotiate. He asked us to call. Claire changed the slide. Internal emails appeared. The first showed a warehouse supervisor forwarding Ethan's proposal. The second showed Russell rejecting it. The third showed Russell instructing managers to secure disposal containers because employees had become too sympathetic to unauthorized food collection. The fourth contained a sentence highlighted in yellow: "Reducing visible need improves customer comfort." The communications director read it twice. Claire faced Russell. "Did you write this?" Russell did not answer. "Did you instruct managers to remove people who appeared unable to purchase food?" "We advised locations to preserve the customer environment." "Did you reduce Ethan's preferred shifts after he filed the complaint scheduling changed for several employees?" Dana distributed printed records around the table. The changes affected Ethan alone. Russell looked at the pages but did not touch them. Claire moved to the next document. Ethan's emergency scheduling request appeared beside the note marked low priority. He requested stable hours to care for a child with asthma. Many employees have personal difficulties. Yes, we cannot redesign operations around every one of them. No one asked you to redesign operations. Claire's voice remained calm. He asked to exchange shifts with another qualified worker who had already agreed. Russell glanced toward Janet again. She did not defend him. "You denied the request 4 days after he filed the waste complaint," Claire said. "The timing was coincidental." "Then why did you access his restricted documents last night?" Russell stood. "This meeting is turning into a trial." One of the attorneys spoke for the first time. "Sit down, Russell." He remained standing. Claire looked at him across the table. "You used a man's fear of losing his daughter to silence him. That is an interpretation. You said it in front of customers. He was creating a disturbance. You created the disturbance because you believed no one in the room could stop you." Russell's composure cracked. "You were pretending to be homeless. I was pretending to have no influence." "That is not the same thing." "No," Claire said. "It is not." She removed the green coat. Beneath it, she wore a plain black blouse still creased from the day before. Claire folded the coat and placed it beside Ethan's jacket. "I could return to this building whenever I wanted. The people you turned away could not." Russell looked around the room for support. No one offered it. The legal counsel closed the folder in front of him. Claire placed a printed notice on the table. Russell Kane, effective immediately, your employment with Bennett Hearth Foods is terminated. His face went pale. You cannot do this without a formal board vote. Your contract allows termination for misuse of confidential employee information, retaliation, falsification of an incident report, and conduct creating material legal risk. The attorney nodded. Russell stared at him. You approved the original response. I approved an investigation based on information you provided. That information was false. Russell looked back at Claire. I protected your company. You protected your numbers. They are the reason you have a company. No, Claire said. People are. Russell gathered his folder. Dana stepped toward the door. Security is waiting outside. His eyes moved toward the green coat one last time. You think one bowl of soup makes him qualified to tell us how to operate? Claire looked at Ethan's work jacket. No, his record does. Russell pushed his chair back. The sound cut sharply through the room. As he walked toward the doors, Claire spoke again. The legal department will preserve all communications related to Ethan Parker's complaint, the restaurant video, and the disposal program. Russell stopped. He did not turn around. Do not contact any employee involved in the review. Dana opened the doors. 2 security officers waited in the hall. Russell left without another word. The doors closed behind him. For several seconds, the boardroom remained silent. Then the communications director lifted the prepared statement. We need to replace this. Claire sat for the first time. No. The woman looked confused. We need to release something quickly. We are not replacing one version of the story with a better version for us. What do you want the statement to say the truth? That could create significant liability. We already created the liability. One of the attorneys nodded slowly. Claire continued. State that Ethan Parker reported food waste through the correct internal process. State that his complaint was improperly dismissed. State that a company executive revealed private information and misrepresented the restaurant incident. The communications director took notes. Do we mention the edited video? Yes. Do we identify the assistant manager? No. The investigation is not complete. What do we say about Ethan's suspension that it has been lifted? Janet looked up. I can process the reinstatement immediately, with back pay beginning at the moment of suspension. Of course. Claire turned toward her. Why was he suspended before anyone requested the restaurant footage? Janet's face tightened. Russell filed a senior executive incident report. The video was spreading. We followed the standard risk procedure. Changed the procedure. Janet nodded. Employees accused through public footage must be interviewed before unpaid suspension unless there is an immediate safety concern. I will draft it. Claire looked around the table. We are also opening an independent review of every food disposal policy and every retaliation complaint from the past 3 years. A board member near the window shifted forward. What will that cost? Claire met his eyes. More than ignoring it did yesterday. Less than ignoring it will tomorrow. No one argued. Dana placed another document before Claire. The open table program. Claire looked at the old photograph on the final page. Her mother stood behind the counter of the original restaurant handing bread to a man near the heater. We rebuild it. The financial officer lifted a hand. Across all locations, begin with a regional pilot. What budget the advertising campaign scheduled for spring? The communications director frowned. That campaign is already in production. Cancel it. It is built around the home message. Claire looked toward the slogan displayed faintly on the empty screen. We have printed that word enough. The public statement was released at 4:47. It included no photograph of Claire in the green coat, no dramatic language, no claim that Bennett Hearth had always valued compassion. The company admitted that Ethan's actions had been misrepresented and that its internal process had failed. The full restaurant video was preserved for release after Ethan gave consent. At 5:12, Ethan's supervisor called him. Ethan was on a ladder beside the bedroom window, pressing a new strip of tape along the plastic sheet. Mia held the bottom of the ladder with both hands. You are making it crooked, she said. It is a window repair, not a museum. It can be both. His phone rang on the kitchen table. Mia looked toward it. You should answer. You sound like my manager. You do not have a manager today. Ethan climbed down. The supervisor spoke quickly. "Your suspension has been lifted." Ethan stared at the wall. What corporate reviewed the full footage? Who the CEO? Ethan looked toward Mia. She was examining the tape on the window. "What did she say?" "That you are reinstated immediately. Back pay is approved." Ethan sat on the edge of the sofa. "And Russell, he is gone." The room seemed too quiet. Gone where terminated. Ethan rubbed a hand over his face. His supervisor continued. "The company is issuing a public correction. They want your permission to release the full footage. I need to see the statement first, of course, and the video. Yes, the complaint reopened under independent review." Ethan looked at Mia's drawing on the table. Who is the CEO, Claire Bennett? The name settled in his mind without meaning. Then someone knocked at the apartment door. 3 soft taps. Ethan stood. "I have to go." He ended the call. Mia moved behind him. "Is it the family services lady I do not know?" He opened the door. The woman from the restaurant stood in the hallway. She was no longer wearing the green coat. Her dark hair was dry and loosely tied at the back of her neck. She wore a charcoal coat over a simple cream blouse. There were no cameras behind her, no assistants, no security officers. In both hands she carried a covered container. Ethan stared at her. "Clara!" Her expression tightened. "My name is Claire." He looked past her toward the stairs. "Claire what, Bennett?" For a second the name still did not connect. Then he remembered the company logo, the annual reports, the signatures printed beneath notices at the warehouse. His face changed. Claire Bennett. Yes, the CEO. Yes. Mia appeared beside him. "You are the woman Dad gave the soup to." Claire looked at her. "I am." Ethan stepped into the hallway and pulled the door nearly closed behind him. "You knew who Russell was." "Yes." "You knew the restaurant belonged to you." "Yes." "You watched him threaten my job." Claire did not look away. "Yes." Anger moved through Ethan's face. "You could have stopped it. I could have. But you did not." "No." He turned away, pressing one hand against the back of his neck. Claire held the container tighter. "I needed to see how far he would go, so you used me to find out." "I did not plan for you to enter that restaurant, but when I did, you kept watching." Claire's eyes filled, though her voice remained steady. "Yes?" Ethan looked at her again. "My daughter went to bed hungry. I know. No, you read it in a file. I watched you divide the roll under the bus shelter." He became still. Claire continued. "The parking lot camera recorded it. You watched me. I was reviewing the incident. You reviewed my complaint too." "Yes." "My family services documents?" "Yes." His face hardened. "Then you know everything. I know what was written. That is not the same thing." "No," Claire said. "It is not." She placed the food container on the hallway table. "I brought chicken noodle soup and fresh rolls." Ethan looked at it. "Is this supposed to fix something?" "No." "Then why bring it? Because I took your dinner, even if I did not know I was taking it when you offered. You did not take it." "I accepted it. That was my choice. And this is mine." She handed him a folder. Ethan did not take it. "What is inside a written apology? Confirmation of your reinstatement, back pay approval, a copy of the public correction, your reopened complaint." "And a new job?" Claire paused. "No." That answer surprised him. "I am not offering you a title because of a video." "Good. I am asking you to join a paid planning group for what we are rebuilding the Open Table program." Ethan said nothing. Claire explained the independent review, the food recovery pilot, and the employee protection policy. "We need restaurant workers, warehouse employees, food organizations, and people who understand hunger without turning it into a presentation." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You mean poor people?" "I mean people whose experience this company has ignored. And you want me in a boardroom. I want your records, your objections, and your judgment. Why? Because you were right before anyone powerful was willing to listen." He looked at the folder again. "Is this pity number guilt?" "Yes." The honesty caught him off guard. Claire continued. "But guilt is not the reason you belong in that room. What is you did the work?" The apartment door opened wider. Mia stood there holding a cookie wrapped in a napkin. Ethan looked at her. "You were supposed to stay inside. You were talking too long." She looked at Claire. "Did you eat the soup?" "Yes." "Was it good?" "It was the best soup I have ever had." Mia considered this. It came from a restaurant. Claire's mouth curved. I think it mattered who gave it to me. Mia tore the cookie in half and offered one piece. We share things here. Claire knelt so they were eye to eye. She accepted it with both hands. Thank you. Mia glanced at Ethan. He does not smile at many people. Mia, you smiled at her last night. Ethan looked at Claire. A small, unwilling smile appeared on her face. For one moment, the hallway felt warmer. Mia returned to the apartment with her half of the cookie. Claire stood. Ethan finally took the folder. This does not mean I trust your company. I am not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Claire looked at him. For the chance to earn it. He held her gaze. The anger had not disappeared. Neither had the memory of the empty bowls. But beneath both, there was something quieter. The same recognition that had passed between them when their hands met beneath the restaurant table. Claire turned toward the stairs. Your jacket is being cleaned, she said. I will return it. Ethan looked at the coat she wore. You kept it all night. It was the warmest thing I had. He glanced toward the apartment where Mia was opening the food container. Steam drifted into the hallway. Claire. She stopped. If I join the planning group, no cameras. Agreed. No campaign about the man who shared his last meal. Agreed. No one has to explain why they need food. Claire nodded. Agreed. Ethan looked down at the folder, then back at her. Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. She descended the stairs. Ethan remained in the doorway until she disappeared below the landing. Behind Ethan, Mia placed 3 bowls on the kitchen table. Claire had already reached the bottom of the stairs when she heard Mia call through the open apartment door. There are 3 bowls. Claire stopped. Ethan looked over his shoulder. Mia stood beside the table with both hands on her hips. Steam rose from the container of chicken noodle soup. The fresh rolls rested in a paper bag near her elbow. Claire waited in the dim stairwell. Ethan glanced at the 3rd bowl, then at her. You should eat before it gets cold, he said. The words were the same ones he had spoken in the restaurant. This time Claire understood their weight. She climbed the stairs again. Dinner was quiet at first. Mia sat between them and counted the noodles in her bowl as if conducting an official inspection. This one has 23, she announced. Ethan looked into his own bowl. I have 7. You ate some already. I did not. Mia pointed at Claire. How many do you have? Claire lifted her spoon and searched carefully. 14. Mia frowned. That is not fair. Claire moved 3 noodles into Ethan's bowl. Now it is. Ethan looked at her. You did not have to do that. I am beginning to understand that sentence rarely stops anyone in this apartment. Mia smiled. Ethan did too. It was brief, but Claire saw it. After dinner, Claire helped Mia gather the bowls. Ethan tried to stop her, but Mia handed Claire a towel and directed her toward the sink. We wash things here too. Claire rolled up her sleeves. The kitchen was small enough that she and Ethan kept stepping into the same narrow space. Each time, one of them moved aside. Each time their eyes met. Neither mentioned it. When the dishes were finished, Claire left. Ethan stood in the doorway watching her descend the stairs. Mia appeared beside him. You like her? Ethan closed the door. She is the reason I almost lost my job. She gave it back. That does not erase what happened. No. Mia climbed onto the sofa. But you still like her. Ethan looked at the empty 3rd bowl. You need to go to sleep. That means yes. Tuesday morning arrived with clear skies and cold wind. Ethan entered Bennett Hearth headquarters wearing his repaired work jacket. The front desk clerk recognized him immediately. Her expression changed when she saw his name on the visitor list. Mr. Parker, someone will escort you upstairs. I can find an elevator. Those are the instructions. Ethan looked toward the security gates. Nothing in the building resembled the warehouse or the restaurant. The floors shone. The walls held framed photographs of smiling families. Coffee stations offered 3 kinds of milk. On the 36th floor, Claire waited outside the conference room. She wore a navy suit and the diamond watch she had removed before her trip to Tacoma. For a moment, Ethan did not recognize her. She looked like the woman whose face appeared in company reports. Then she smiled. The woman from the bus shelter returned. Your jacket, she said. Clean and repaired. I noticed. The torn cuff was bothering me. It had been torn for 2 years. That bothered me more. Ethan looked at the sleeve. The repair was careful enough that he could barely see it. Thank you. Claire opened the conference room door. Inside were restaurant workers, warehouse employees, a food safety attorney, 2 representatives from local shelters, and a woman who ran a community kitchen in Tacoma. No reporters waited in the room. No cameras stood near the walls. Ethan looked at Claire. "You kept your word. I intend to make that a habit." The planning meetings were not easy. The first discussion lasted 3 hours and ended with more questions than answers. Restaurant managers worried that customers would complain. The legal team raised concerns about food safety. The finance department asked how many meals could be served without affecting operating targets. A public relations executive suggested giving the program a hopeful name and creating a launch video. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "No." The executive looked at him. "No to the name, no to the video. We need public awareness. People who are hungry will find food. The campaign could improve trust in the company." Ethan looked toward Claire. "This is not supposed to be about improving trust." Claire folded her hands on the table. "He is right." The executive closed her notebook. "What do we call it then?" Ethan looked at the photograph of Claire's mother that had been placed near the screen. "The Open Table." Claire nodded. That was the original name. "Then use it." The group agreed on 3 rules. No person would be required to explain why they needed a meal. No employee would be asked to judge whether someone appeared poor enough. No photograph of a person receiving food could be used for advertising without clear permission. The food safety attorney created a system for separating safe surplus food from items that could not be served. The community kitchen offered refrigerated transport. Warehouse workers designed a tracking system showing what food was donated, what was served, and what was discarded. Ethan insisted that the numbers be made public. A finance manager objected. "Waste reports are internal. That is why no one knew what was happening. Competitors could use the numbers against us." Ethan looked at Claire. She understood the question in his eyes. "Publish them," she said. The manager stared at her. "All of them. All of them." After the meeting, Ethan and Claire walked toward the elevators. "You agreed quickly," he said. "I did not need more time to know you were right. That is not how most executives speak. Most executives have not spent a night in wet shoes." The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside alone. Claire pressed the lobby button. Ethan noticed the faint line on her ring finger. "You were married." Claire looked down at her hand. "A long time ago." "What happened?" "He left." Ethan waited. Claire gave a small shrug. "He said the company had become the only relationship I knew how to protect." "Was he right?" The elevator moved silently downward. "Partly." Ethan nodded. "Rachel used to say I could repair anything except a conversation." Claire smiled. "She sounds direct." She was. The doors opened. Neither stepped out immediately. People waiting in the lobby looked toward them. Claire moved first. Weeks passed. Ethan continued working at the warehouse while attending planning meetings twice a week. His suspension pay covered the missing shifts, but the apartment remained cold. The landlord replaced the broken bedroom window after Claire's legal department contacted the building owner. Ethan objected when he learned about it. "You said no charity." "It was not charity," Claire said. "The landlord was violating housing codes. You happened to discover that I happened to ask someone to review the lease. That sounds like a powerful person solving things quietly. It was a legal repair he already owed you." Ethan looked at her. "You make it difficult to stay angry. I am not sure that is true. It is becoming true." The county caseworker returned the following Tuesday. She inspected the new window, reviewed Ethan's restored income, and spoke privately with Mia. When she finished, she closed the folder. "The household review will remain open for 30 days, but I do not see an immediate safety concern." Ethan stood near the kitchen table. "What does that mean?" "It means Mia stays here." His shoulders lowered for the first time all morning. Mia ran into him and wrapped both arms around his waist. The caseworker looked toward the drawing of the house with the blue door. "That is a nice house." Mia nodded. "We are still working on it." Claire began visiting the apartment more often. At first, she came with documents. Then she arrived with food from a program meeting. Later, she came because Mia had asked for help with a school project about family businesses. Claire sat at the kitchen table while Mia colored a poster. "What color should the restaurant be?" Mia asked. "Gray." Mia looked offended. No restaurant should be gray. Many successful restaurants are gray. That is why adults are sad. Ethan laughed from the sink. Claire picked up a blue crayon. What about this? Mia approved. Blue doors mean good people live inside. Claire glanced at Ethan. He was already looking at her. The open table pilot began at the Tacoma restaurant where they had met. Russell's assistant manager had been dismissed after the investigation found that he had deliberately edited the video and sent it to Russell's office before uploading it. The young server who had tried to bring Claire another bowl remained. Her name was Kayla. She joined the planning group and helped train the staff. On the morning of the launch, Ethan arrived before sunrise. A wooden table stood near the front window. Above it hung a simple sign. If you are hungry, please sit. No purchase required. No explanation needed. Ethan read the words twice. Claire approached from behind him. Too much no. Too little no. Then why do you look worried? Because signs are easy. Claire stood beside him. And keeping the promise is harder. He nodded. The first customer sat at the table shortly after 11. He was an older man wearing a wet canvas coat. He stopped inside the door and looked around as though expecting someone to tell him he had entered the wrong place. Kayla approached. Would you like to sit near the window? I do not have money. You do not need it. He looked at the sign. Then he sat. Ethan carried him soup. Claire brought bread. Neither asked his name. By the end of the first week, the restaurant had served 86 meals through the program. There were complaints. One customer said the table made the restaurant feel like a shelter. Another said the company was encouraging dependency. A manager at a second location refused to participate until Claire personally reviewed the policy with him. A finance report showed that costs were higher than expected. The program did not become easy simply because it was right. Ethan and Claire stayed late many evenings, reviewing inventory records at the Tacoma restaurant after the doors closed. One night, rain moved softly against the windows. Claire sat across from Ethan with 2 cups of coffee between them. Communications wants to feature you in the spring campaign, she said. No, I told them that. Then why mention it? Because I almost agreed. Ethan looked at her. Claire did not turn away. I wanted people to see what you did. They can see the program. I know. You wanted a better story for the company. At first. And after that, Claire looked down at her coffee. I wanted them to see you. Ethan's expression changed. Why? Claire lifted her eyes. Because I see you. The restaurant became very quiet. Ethan reached across the table. His hand covered hers. Claire did not move. I am not good at this, he said. At holding hands, at beginning again. Claire turned her hand beneath his. You do not have to begin all at once. 6 months after the night of the storm, Bennett Hearth expanded the open table program across western Washington. The company offered Ethan a permanent position as Community Food Access Director. He read the contract twice. The job included steady hours, health benefits, and authority over the regional program. He accepted after adding one requirement. The program budget could not be redirected to advertising. Claire signed the change. Ethan and Mia moved into a small apartment with reliable heat and a blue front door. On their first evening there, Mia taped her old drawing beside the kitchen light. The windows are smaller, Ethan said. The real ones are. There are still 3 chairs. Mia looked toward Claire, who stood in the doorway holding a box of dishes. We need 3. At the opening of the permanent Tacoma program, Ethan stood before a small group of employees and community partners. He had refused a stage. He stood beside the wooden table instead. This table does not ask who made the right choices, he said. It does not ask who worked hard enough or who deserves help. It only asks whether someone is hungry. He stepped away before anyone could applaud for long. That evening, after the restaurant closed, rain began tapping against the windows. Claire found the old green coat folded over a chair near the open table. You kept it, Ethan said. I need to remember what people saw when they looked at me. He moved closer. What do you think they see now as CEO? That is not what I asked. Claire looked at him. The room carried the warm smell of bread and coffee. Mia slept in a booth near the window, a red crayon still resting beside her hand. Claire spoke quietly. I see a man who gave away dinner when he had every reason not to. Ethan waited. Claire took a breath. I see someone I am falling in love with. He looked toward Mia. Then back at Claire. I still feel married some days. I know. I do not want to pretend Rachel never existed. I would never ask you to. I have a daughter. I know that too. She asks too many questions. Claire smiled. She gets that from you. Ethan stepped closer. I am still learning how to want a future without feeling like I am betraying the past. Claire's eyes softened. We can go slowly. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he touched her face. The kiss was gentle, not a reward, not an ending. Only trust taking one careful step forward. Near the front door, a man in a wet coat appeared beneath the restaurant sign. He hesitated. Kayla crossed the dining room and opened the door wider. You do not need to order, she said. There is a seat for you. The man sat at the open table. Ethan brought soup. Claire placed bread beside the bowl. Mia woke, drew a red star on a paper napkin, and set it near the spoon. Outside, the rain washed the streets of Tacoma. Inside, no one had to prove they belonged.